Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Or should I welcome back myself because it's been forever. Um but this is a part 2 to the part 1 video that I made about Spanish ab initio, and it's basically an add-on, so you should probably watch that video. It has a lot more information. But this video is basically focusing a little more on paper 2, and it's just a few additional study tips for paper 2 that I didn't mention in my first video. So yeah, it's just like an add-on. So by now I think most of you would have taken a look at a paper 2 past paper before, and if you have, you would have seen that they provide several prompts that you're supposed to choose from, and for each prompt they also provide several text types and you're supposed to choose one. And the thing about these text types is that, as far as I know, there is a correct text type that you're supposed to pick and write your response in. So one of the best ways to practice for or prepare for paper 2 is probably to get to know these different text types and their conventions. And I have several tips that could help you with this. And so the first one is to look at the Spanish ab initio syllabus, and they have a complete table of all the potential text types that could appear in your exam. So just go through the table. So here's the English version, and you can also ask your teacher if they have a Spanish version of this, or you can also just search online. Here is one that is in Spanish, because the exam's going to be completely in Spanish, so you should be able to recognize the names of all these text types in their Spanish. Well, it just also helps me to feel less anxious before the exam, because you really don't want to go to exam and there's a prompt that you think you'll be able to really write well in, but you only recognize 2 of the 3 text types that they provide. So, if you're gonna pick one, there's kind of a risk, because what if you pick out of the 2 that you do recognize, but the one that you don't recognize is actually the correct text type? So in that case, you might just have to go to another prompt, which is fine, but you do want to give yourself as many options as possible in a paper 2 and not take too many big risks. So again, just go through all the potential text types in that list and be able to recognize their Spanish names. So I took another look at the syllabus, and by the way, you should all do that. You should all read your syllabus, and it turns out that the IB organizes text into these 3 categories, and the examples that I showed in the table earlier are neither prescriptive nor exhaustive. So I guess it's not a definitive list, but I still think it's pretty thorough, and it'll probably expose you to a wide range of texts that will prepare you well for your exam. So my second tip is to create a Word document, or it could be your physical notebook, and include in it all the potential most common text types that are likely to appear. So these would probably include, but not be limited to, correo electrónico, carta formal or informal, anuncio, and others. And so you should just try to list, what are the characteristics of this text type. Is the register formal or informal? What are some common phrases you can use if you choose this text type? So for example, if you're writing a letter, you should probably know a few sign-offs and a few openings. And here's an example of one that I found in my notes. It's on correo electrónico. Sorry if I butcher the pronunciation. You can also just do a quick search on Google, and you're probably going to find a few guides that other people have already made on the most common text types in Spanish ab initio, such as this one. You can also ask your teacher if they have any such resources. For example, my teacher gave us a guide that had a lot of great examples of the phrases that commonly appear in these text types. So the point is that you don't have to start from scratch, really. There are definitely resources that people have put on the internet. There are students who have taken Spanish before you. So just see what other people have already come up with, so you don't have to do all the work. You can also draw an example of this text type or an actual response to a real exam prompt. And here again is a random example from my notes. I don't remember when I wrote it or how good it is, but you get the point. And you can also reference the blue exercise booklet that I mentioned in my previous video, and I have a picture of that in my previous video. I don't have it right now, so I can't show you.
Or maybe you might have this blue workbook, and it's also pretty great. It has a lot of examples of different text types, as well as space for you to practice writing in that text type. So, for example, here is una carta formal, and it gives you some conventions of the text type, some examples, and here it gives you a space to write your own.
That booklet has examples of the most common text types. Just make sure that you do flip through all of it though, because you don't want to be leaving any gaps in your knowledge of text types, because if your class is anything like mine, you probably focused more on certain text types over others. So just make sure that you have at least a general awareness of these major text types. Now, moving away from text types, my next tip has to do with kind of just how to spice up your writing a little bit. And what I basically did was I looked up lists of idioms or common daily life phrases that native Spanish speakers use. And I made note of those in my notebook, and I think I also added it onto my Anki flashcards. You can also use Quizlet. And then in my paper too, if it happened to be appropriate, I would just add in a few of these idioms, or just like these phrases that would make it seem more natural, I guess, and hopefully impress the examiner. And finally, I've already mentioned this before, but pull up a few past papers, or actually, something you could do is pull up one past paper for paper 2, and try to write a response to every one of the prompts. And this is not something you have to do in the exam, but I think it can help as a useful exercise because it forces you to look at each text type and to write in a variety of text types, and also to write in a variety of topics that you may not be so comfortable with, or that you haven't written much about, and just to cover as much ground, as much breadth as possible. I think it can be a really helpful exercise. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, found it helpful, and happy studying. Sorry it's been forever, and hopefully it's not forever until my next video, but we'll see about that. If you guys have any video requests about college life or about IB, you guys can add them in the comments, and I'll try to respond to them, or make videos on them. So yeah, thanks for watching this, and see you next time.